2008.
Just a little under you.
Yes, with stories for you.
Lost in these uneducated blues.
Welcome to you and welcome to Clive Guthrie. This is a hat-driven show. So Clive is one of the people in Chippendale who sticks in my mind because he always wears these beautiful hats. Is it because you're bald, Clive?
Yeah, but not in the way of baldness that you might assume. I haven't got a skin that's suitable for Australia, and anyway, skin cancer is the answer, and you need to keep the head covered. And in the winter time, there's an element of warmth involved, but I just got used to them, and so if you're going to do it, you might as well do it with a little bit of style.
I like it when you tip it back because I can see the light on your eyes, and I want to look for the truth in your eyes, Mr. Guthrie. So tell me the truth about when you came to Chippendale.
I came here a little bit by accident, although I was looking around Newtown for a house for some time. Couldn't find one, and which was suitable for me and my two sons at the time. And in between some planned inspections of houses in the days when you used to look it up in the Herald and where to go next. I had a spare slot and I was flicking through the Herald and I saw one in Chippendale, and I shrugged my shoulders and thought this will kill a bit of time. So I went to a house which is now across the road from where I live and looked at it. It was a bit of a wreck. I came out it's not now, but anyway, I came out of there and there was a for sale sign on a house across the road, and so it wasn't in the Herald. It was part of a judge's deceased estate, and some real estate agent from Mossman was just flogging properties all around the place on behalf of that estate. So anyway, in the end, I did get inside, had a look, and liked what I saw, liked the roominess of it, and the potential that I could build Chippendale's second private garage, I think, and so I bought it, and here I am. But that was 1999. I don't think I asked that question. Anyway.
Yeah. So I would like to know what you like about Chippendale now, today, this moment.
This moment. In a funny way, at this moment, within the pandemic, even though we're almost out of it, it's difficult to like it in the sense that I don't dislike it, but you don't get out as much as you used to, and so the house is very comfortable, and that's what I like about it at the moment. And I don't need much entertainment outside the house at the moment.
It's unbelievable for me, but you get up at 5 or 6 or something, and you ride your bike for an hour.
Yeah.
How far do you go?
It's usually about 10 kilometres a day, which isn't very much by the measure of other bicycle types who wear lycra and so on.
Yeah.
But
can I just interrupt you?
Yeah.
Are you saying you don't wear lycra?
Yes.
Oh, please.
You've seen me.
Please ride your bike more often. I don't get that stuff.
No, neither do I. But if you're comfortable, and it's usually old clothes that I wear. But anyway, and I've got 3 or 4 different circuits that I've sort of measured out over time, and sometimes I go, but basically on a daily routine. And if you're doing it pretty much every day, then it keeps you fit.
Well, I've stopped swimming, I've stopped walking, I don't own a car, and I just can't seem to twist my arm up behind my back and make myself go to the pool, which is 10 minutes walk away. I don't know what the virus has done to me, but I'm going to have to I'm not going to buy a bike. I'm too much of a coward to be on the roads. Do you have any close shaves?
None. No, maybe one, but perhaps as long as my wife's not watching. But anyway, rarely, because I stick to the laneways, and that's one of the, pretty much to the laneways. I cross Parramatta Road twice on the circuit when I go down to Glebe Point, but you do it at a set of lights. You go across with the lights, and that's that. And on the way back, and I come back, which takes me into Victoria Park and through there around the swimming pool, and back home. But it's sticking to the laneways, and you've got to have your wits about you. But I've never really had any.
You don't wear one of these. You wear a helmet, right?
Yep.
Good.
Yep.
I'll allow you to keep going. Just reflecting back on some of your answers just now, I think Chippendale must be a hub for investment. The house I bought was one of two owned as investment properties also, this time by a psychiatrist. And interestingly, that adjoining house has been bought by a psychiatrist who lives in Chippendale. I've noticed, I think it's a trend, but I'm unsure, that people who buy here tend to buy another house sometimes. Have you noticed that?
Not really. No, I haven't noticed it. There's a simple answer, but
It's one of the reasons I'm doing this is I like to lift the curtains and look behind the public face of my neighbours, such as you. And when I bought my place, it was a bordello. There were 6 girls working there. By the time I took possession, they'd all gone, and the only person was in the other house that was adjoining it, the second property owned by the psychiatrist. And he was a lawyer, and I would meet him in the courts from time to time. Have you noticed any, I mean, there's a mystery, I suppose, wherever you live. You never know what's happening on the other side of doors and curtains. But you're retired? You are, aren't you?
oh, partly. Yeah.
Partly. And what happens behind your curtains that you're prepared to tell us briefly that reflects well on you today? What do you do? Do you read? Do you listen to music? Do you write?
I certainly listen to music. My interest in music goes back to the 1950s when I was quite young. It's all I can never contemplate living in a house where there's music not playing all day, every day, if that's possible. So yeah, there's always music. I've got I've still got the first LP record that I ever bought, and when CDs came in, I bought a few of those along the way, and I'm not good at it, but I've tried to play guitar for a long time and haven't succeeded, and there's a piano in one corner of the house, so music, there's influence of music, but I also do photography, and these days, of course, there are really only photo albums, but you can make beautiful glossy books out of your photos, and so I spend a bit of time manufacturing, if that's the word, books of photographs of mine, and at various occasions for people. But yes, I read. I was reading, you don't want to know this, I suppose, nothing to do with Chippendale, but I've been reading a book about a man a French man living in England around the turn of the century, of the last century and beyond, and he made he's a wine expert, and he established the Wine and Food Society of Britain, which became worldwide. And because he drinks a lot of wine, somebody asked him, how much water do you have to sort of balance the amount of wine you're drinking? And he said, well, I think wine's given me an iron constitution. If I had water, it might rust. So there you are. That's what reading does for you.
Yeah. Do you remember the Duck and Swan Hotel?
Indeed.
And I think you were there, you told me, for the closing down, when it closed down and it changed hands. Tell us about that night.
It was quite an event, really, because the Duck, as it was, well, it's called the Duck now officially, but anyway, the Duck and Swan, known as the Duck, was a great little place because you could always walk in there and there'd be somebody you knew or who knew you, or even if you didn't, they'd be willing to talk. You and I even had a lunch or three there, I think, at various times. But it was always apparently financially on a tightrope, and of course the inevitable happened, and somebody decided to buy it and turn it into the pub and kitchen on an English model. So on the final night that it was to be open, they invited the neighbourhood in for free booze, so nobody had too much inclination to decline. So it was a good, big, crowded night. I took a lot of photos there, and afterwards I I wrote a little story which I sent to a few people whose email addresses that I had around the neighbourhood, but also for a wider audience that I have for some travel things that I do. And anyway, the story apparently surprisingly to me entertained the neighbourhood people, and people kept contacting me and asking for a copy. Anyway, there you go.
Well, in closing, I'm going to give you some homework. Can you send me, please, half a dozen of your photographs that you think would tell us a bit about how you see Chippendale?
Yeah, you might even be in one of them.
And could you send that description of the last night of the Duck to me? I'm not sure what we'll do with it, but we'll work out some way of telling the world how you see the world in Chippendale.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Could I answer a question which you haven't asked?
Yeah,
Sorry,
sure.
folks. Stay with me. But I also, at one stage, because I do a lot of work from home, you get stuck to your desk, you know, pre-pandemic. So you've got to find a reason to get out. And I would grab my camera and I'd walk around to people who work or have businesses in Chippendale, and I'd asked if I could photograph them at their workplace. And so there are a lot of pictures of that kind of thing. And it's amazing when you go back to look at them, how many of them aren't here anymore.
Could you send us half a dozen of those as well?
Yeah.
See? There's stories that people can tell that you never know, and sometimes you have to be prompted to ask. Thank you for telling me that unprompted. It's a really interesting story. Thank you, Clive.
Thank you.
Good. Our next guest is Bruce Levers. Hello, Bruce.
G'day, Michael.
You live across the road, don't you?
I do, yeah. I'm at number 49. Yeah.
Oh, I'm glad you didn't deny that. I love your house. It's not like a terrace house at all. What is the history of the house?
Well, as far as I know, it was an automatic transmission mechanics workshop. His name was Angus Pangas. So he was there. He was a racing car driver as well, I believe. That's what I think so. And and I don't know how long ago it was converted into a house.
I do.
Okay, good.
So I came there to Chippendale in 1978. When did you buy the house?
2018.
Yeah. So the people who owned it before you bought it from Pangas.
Yeah.
He used to have a hydraulic lift so you could walk past and see a car being fixed up.
Okay.
And he had a big pit.
The pit's still there.
Is it?
That's our cellar.
Right.
Yeah, I haven't set it up as a cellar.
Right.
It's a little bit musty down there, but it's a great space.
Right.
Yeah.
How interesting.
Yeah, it's you know, being sealed over,
Yeah.
and there's tiled floors,
Yeah.
and then there's a perspex manhole which you lift, go down the stairs, and
Right.
it's quite a long pit.
Right.
Yeah, so
I must never get offside with you because
No.
you've got a place to hide the body.
that's right. That's where we hide all our enemies.
And what, if you don't mind me asking, do you do to put bread on the table?
I'm a commercial cleaning contractor,
Right.
predominantly in
Right.
the CBD.
I was hoping you'd say that because my house is very dirty
Okay.
and I'm here to get some free cleaning advice.
Ah, okay.
You know my house,
I do, yes.
and I have tours of the house.
Mm-hmm.
I've become less and less reliable in my cleaning habits,
Okay.
and the only time I clean that wretched place now is on tour days, and I'm terrified in the morning thinking, how am I going to get rid of these weeks of mess? And today, as I was getting rid of the tour, I thought of our conversation. I thought, I'm going to get some advice on cleaning this house. When you say you clean only commercial premises, I'm going to come to this crab-wise, if I may.
Uh-huh.
Are they in the CBD? Where are they?
Mostly in the CBD and mostly office buildings.
Yeah,
I do some common areas of residential apartments, strata apartments as well,
right.
but predominantly, you know,
Right.
buildings in the CBD.
Actually, what's it been like for you during the virus, during the lockdown?
It was, yeah, to be honest, I've never worked so hard in all my life because we still had to clean the buildings. And
Even though there was no one there?
well, there was still some people coming to work, you know, like lawyers and accountants and that. So you
Right.
still had to maintain the corridors and so as each lockdown, the lockdown LGAs, as each one occurred, I
Yeah.
kept losing more and more staff. So then I had more.
How many people did you have working for you before?
About 20.
And then during the...
I was down to about 5, and then one of the girls that worked for me, she lived in Ashfield, which wasn't a lockdown LGA, she caught COVID.
Oh.
And then she lived with 2 of my other staff,
Oh.
so I lost 3 of them.
So were you doing the work of 20 people?
I was.
I'm glad you're here.
It was a little
You're
bit
living to tell the tale.
But luckily they were quiet because I just had no excuse but to, none of my clients are listening, but I was a pretty quick clean, you know. So
And you couldn't get replacements or interim part-time people?
I did. I'd try and find staff that lived in the, not in a lockdown LGA.
Yeah.
And I had, I think Burwood, Stratfield, I got a couple from there. And then Stratfield, Burwood got locked down. So it was sort of like chasing, it was like, I don't know if it's the right term, but I was chasing my tail, I was sort of like, I just didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
So
And what's it like now?
now's better, except because a lot of the students went back and a lot of my staff in the evening
You mean left the country?
left the country.
Okay.
And because there's no international students and tourists coming in, there's a huge demand for hospitality and cleaning staff.
All right.
So, yeah.
Are you still doing the work of 20 people?
No, it's fine now.
Would you like to lie down or something?
I do need a holiday. Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. So
Are you finding it hard to replace people at the moment?
at the moment, what happened also during the lockdown, I picked up a lot of work because contractors that lived out west couldn't come to work. So I'd have strata managers ringing me and saying, can you take over this temporarily? And I'd take them on, and then we do
You're
a really
a sucker
good.
for punishment.
Yeah, well, we did a really good job, and then got that contract too. So so it's like but
You did a really good job and got more work.
that's right. Yeah. Well, it's what you do when you take over a building. You know, you detail the place and bring it up to an acceptable standard,
okay.
and then maintain it like that.
Right.
So,
I don't want to give you a challenge, but you couldn't bring my place up to standard. I got
Okay.
divorced 20 or so years ago, and you know it's been a downhill decline.
yeah,
And the things that I no longer see are actually there. You know, the cobwebs.
yeah.
And you
Yeah.
see that stuff in offices, do you?
Not so much. No.
You don't see cobwebs?
Well, we're not supposed to allow cobwebs to be there. So, yeah. So,
I better not talk about myself anymore. It's
but
obviously
I do know what you mean. Like
Yeah.
I went through a divorce and was single for a while,
Yeah.
and if you don't have somebody with you, you tend to not create a lot of importance on you.
Oh.
So, you know.
I want to talk to you daily from now on. This is very reassuring.
Yeah. Yeah. You know,
Even though you're a cleaner, you let your own house become less clean.
I think so. I think so. Yeah, when you're on your own.
Well, you would know so.
Yeah, when you're on your own, you know, I think it's just you know, but when you've got a partner, you tend to, you know, want to keep it tidy for her as well.
Right.
You know, you don't sort of, you
Right.
know, leave your cup on the table. You sort
Right.
of go and put it in.
If I
wash
go
it
back
up.
on dating sites, I think I'm going to make it clear that I'm not interested in having a clean house.
Okay.
I think it's good to sort things out up front.
That's right. Yeah.
So, what's the future of your cleaning business? Are you going to be doing it tough because the labour isn't there anymore, or
I believe that there's more now that the borders have opened.
right?
It'll quickly come back to normal.
Right.
Yeah.
This is I guess a difficult question.
Yeah.
Is there an award rate for cleaners that you employ?
Well, it's a little bit hard. It seemed to be a little bit deregulated. It's sort of like hard to find out what is the award rate. So, you know, I pay between $25 and $30 an hour,
Yeah.
and the way I do it, I just say a cleaner does a couple of floors in a building,
Yeah.
and it takes them 3 hours to do it.
Yeah.
We pay them for 3 hours,
Yeah.
so $28 an hour.
Yeah.
And if you've got a slow cleaner, they'll take 3.5 hours.
Oh, I see.
But, you know, you work it out, it takes 3 hours.
Yeah.
If they do it in 2.5, I don't penalise them for that.
Right.
You know, we've got
But you do check they've done the job.
That's right. We supervise it heavily, and if they go home in 2 hours or 2.5 hours, they get paid for 3.
Right.
But we expect the quality, you know.
So when you lost all those people, did you lose your supervisor or supervisors?
No, they lived in Ashfield, so I was lucky.
Right.
Yeah.
And they would be the backbone of your business, wouldn't they? Or are you a supervisor as
I'm
well?
a supervisor as well.
Right.
So they, a husband and wife, supervise in one of my main buildings, which is
Right.
23 levels.
23. Do you
Yeah.
clean? Do they? They don't clean the 23 levels.
No, there's about 10 staff.
This is terrifying. The prospect of cleaning 23 levels is making me recoil. How
Right.
many people does it take to clean a 23 floor office building?
About 10,
10.
yeah.
So that's 10 into 20, 2 hours per floor?
Yeah, and plus you've got common areas, you've got ones that bring down the garbage and that sort of thing as well, and you've got toilets. And,
Right.
Yeah, so it's,
So, okay.
yeah.
And so I've never thought about this, but when you supervise, in other words, inspect,
Yep.
do you go to each of the 23 floors?
No, it's almost impossible to check everywhere in one night. So they'll check, say, maybe 5 floors a night.
Yeah.
And what I've done in the last couple of years, we've introduced an app which will have all their their specs of what they've got to do each night on it.
Right.
And they sign in and they look at it, and they've got their basic things, but like once a week they'll dust.
Right.
And there's different things.
Once a week? That often?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, this is unfinished business. This we have to clean up this issue of cleaning offices.
Yeah.
I'm going to. You've got me curious.
Okay.
Yeah, I never thought I'd be curious about cleaning. So, well done, you.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for coming. I have one last question: is there some prospect of you one day coming to my house and being really rude to me about how dirty it is, and giving me some clues?
Yeah, I'm happy to do that, but honestly, I don't think it's that bad.
Don't you?
I've
never hugged anybody on this show yet, but I'm getting close to it now. Look, let's end on that high note.
Yeah.
Sorry, I did cut you off. What were you going to say?
I was going to say there's dirty and there's unhygienic. Like if you've got a little bit of mess on your floor,
Right.
or the carpet's a bit dirty,
Right.
but if you've got like the sink overflowing with dishes and mould growing all over it, that's different.
Well, that's company.
But, yeah,
it's not unhygienic.
Yeah.
Well, let's end on that clean note.
Okay, then.
Ish note.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you for
Thanks,
that,
Michael.
and don't put me in that little old garage cave of yours.
No,
thank you.
no, I won't.
No,
No.
good.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Bruce.
thanks, Michael. Thank
Good.
you.
Our next guest is Benny Davis. Benny, welcome to this little show. You're a recent Chippo arrival, aren't you?
Yeah, technically. Thank you for having me, by the way.
Well, thank you for coming.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
You've come so far.
Yes, it was quite a walk. Actually, I was further than my house, actually. We came from the park down the road. We have been living here since August, and it's only a couple of months then. Yeah, we've been overseas for a couple of years. It was actually a place we managed to get just before we moved overseas. And yeah, since moving home, we're starting to feel a bit more settled.
So you bought it, then you moved overseas,
Yeah.
and then you come back and now you're occupying it.
Yeah, with the trip overseas, my wife was located, and so that was kind of the opportunity that we had, knowing that we could get this place and ease the burden for a few years by renting it out.
Yeah.
So, yes, I'm incredibly stressed now, but it's been nice getting my foot in the door. Can't wait to pay it off at the age of 70.
Yeah, it's a tough gig.
Yeah. It's really difficult talking to your generation about it, but let's not get into that.
No. It's something that needs to be acknowledged, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, you bought before it reached a peak, I suppose.
Has there been at what point is it at a peak? Because my entire life it's just been upward chaos. So, yeah. Look, I acknowledge as well that I'm actually quite privileged.
Yeah.
I come from a very lucky background, and it's one of the only things that allowed me to do this. So, yeah, I'm on the level.
And why choose Chippendale to live in?
Good question. I like the inner city. I guess it's a bit of a Sydney stereotype that we don't move around a lot. You know, the people on the north side of the bridge stay where they are. Mm-hmm. We don't mingle with the people in the south, the inner west. Mm-hmm. We're a club as well. I guess I'm just inner west, born and raised. Raised in Annandale. Since then, I lived here, just up the hill actually, a block on Ellen Place.
Oh, I know Ellen Place.
Yeah. We lived down there while I was just out of uni, but still doing a lot of uni activities like comedy and performance and that, and all of my housemates were still at uni. Then I lived in Glebe for a while, then I travelled a lot for work, and now I'm back in the same place.
Right.
It's cosy.
And I met you because you're interested in gardening.
Yeah, definitely.
Tell us what gardening you're doing.
Well, it's more as gardening as part of a sustainable lifestyle, because that's been a big thing for me just because of the world the way it is. And I just think it's the right way to be. I've always had a concern about waste. I think part of that is just being on several spectra. I like efficiency, and part of that is making sure that I live an efficient life and I don't take away from the world more than I give back. Just having a healthy balance. And I think gardening, composting, recycling, it's all part of that.
You've just recently had a new child, or first child. Has that heightened your sense of the value of gardening?
Good question. I wonder if I've made that connection. Again, from the standpoint of sustainability, I feel that part of my parenting outlook is leaving the world as good, or if not better, than it was when I got here. The older I get, the more I realise I don't have much power over that, so I'll do whatever I can. But yeah, I guess as far as gardening is concerned, again, it just goes back to the element about waste. I don't like going to the shops to buy basil every week, wrapped in plastic, just for half of it to wither before I can cook it and have it thrown away. It seems inefficient from every perspective. Economically, sustainably, it makes no sense to me. And as long as these are things that I can learn to do on my own at home, and things that I can teach to not just my own kids, but anybody else who wants to do it, then that just feels important. Something I wish I'd learnt growing up.
Yeah. You've just bought, for anyone to use, a big compost bin, and you've put it in the park.
He's the sweetest man. He gives me all the credit for this. But this is 100% collaborative, and it's really your direction. I am not a gardener, but yeah, it's something that I definitely wanted to contribute. But yeah, without your guidance, I couldn't have known how to set it up.
So here's your house on one side of the street. Across the street is the park, and in it is this compost bin, and it's open to the soil below, but it's got a perforated base so that mice and rats can't get in, so the nutrients are going in to the ground to feed the trees. You might sense from the way I'm speaking that there are connections there between what you've done and the trees and things. Does that enrich you, or
I definitely get a satisfaction. I know where you're going with that, but I'm a bit nuts and a very anxious person, so I do find that connection, it does bring me a lot of peace, but it's very rare when I get that kind of clarity and headspace to understand my connection with the earth.
Well,
a lot of the time I feel the stress of, I'd better not kill this thing.
I'm briefly going to treat you as a challenge. So, picture that thing sitting there 24 hours a day, the nutrients going into the soil. Isn't that the definition of efficiency?
Definitely.
Right, so we'll leave it there.
Oh, I don't disagree with that. I think it's perfect. I'm very satisfied we've done it. Again, I had no idea how to do any of that before I met you, which is part of the satisfaction that I feel that I'm growing and learning from being part of a really nice community that seems very environmentally conscious. And I mean, even from what we discussed about the reason that we've got this new compost is because the existing one was overflowing, which is a mixed blessing, because it means that lots of people are also very mindful of the food waste that they're creating, and we just need a proper outlet for it. And now with this one, we're feeding some fruit trees and the parsley, and is it a tomato plant that's there as well?
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
Look,
it's very efficient.
I do this to a lot of people. I hope I haven't done this to you.
sign?
I'm not giving you or anybody the finger. If you graph pollution of our planet as a country, the most polluting country is China, and then America, and then when you graph food waste pollution as a country, it's the third greatest source of pollution. So in rich countries, about 40% of it is wasted and thrown out. In poor countries, about 40% of it spoils in the fields.
Just getting back on my spectrum, China and America ahead of food waste globally, or does that include China and America's food waste?
No.
For their
No. If you graph all the pollution from America
just from
and all the pollution from China,
okay.
they are the most polluting countries. And then if you get all the pollution from food waste, it's the third most polluting country. Everything. Planes, the whole box and dice.
Right, okay.
So if you take comfort from this, and I invite you to do so, by composting a kilo of food waste, you can stop several kilos of pollution in the air. How does 1 kilo transform into several kilos? It's because typically it breaks down to methane, and methane, when you convert it into carbon dioxide, which is the common ruler for pollution of Earth's climate, is you require a lot of carbon dioxide to match the pollution of methane, which is 40 times more polluting.
Right.
So because that stuff's cleanly decomposing in that aerobic compost bin, and it's, is it 150 litres?
220.
220.
Yeah.
So let's assume it's going to be on average about 200 litres in there at any one time. You're going to compost in there about 100 litres of food roughly a month. So you're going to stop several hundred kilos of pollution going into the atmosphere if it went off to the council.
That's great. So you're saying that that food waste otherwise, if it went into the red bin and went into landfill, then it would be creating the methane that way?
Yeah.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
It's incredibly satisfying knowing it's so direct, straight out of the bucket in my kitchen, right into a garden that I haven't had for years.
And because I go there quite a lot, I see a lot of different people. So I know that people drive 15, 20 minutes on the way to work, stop off here, and they put in a couple of kilos of compost.
Yeah, great.
Yeah, so it's an attractor. So I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you've bought us a compost bin. I'm glad you're saving pollution of food waste, not just of your own, but of other people. And I look forward to you doing lots of things without me being involved, because we need people like you, people who've got some motivation and some skills to do these things. If we can do this here the way we're trending, we can actually show others that it's very easy to do this. So thanks for coming so far. Thanks for coming so far in your food waste journey. And stick around, Benny. We need more like people like you.
Absolutely. We're here for a while.
Good on you, mate.
Yeah, it's good to be home.
Good.